Speaking about European food, most people know Italian food, French food, and Greek food. But have you ever heard of Hungarian or Czech food? Did you know that paprika is actually an Hungarian word? And the goulash your grandma made is originally from Hungary. Over the past 2 weeks, I embarked on a journey through Hungary, Czechia, and Austria and experienced an amazing food adventure. Some dishes were great, some dishes were but food is always a wonderful window to learn more about the culture and people. So let's dive in. Hungary, Austria, Czechia, formerly known as Czech Republic, border each other in Central Europe and were once part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. As a result, their food and traditions were largely shared, and you can find similar dishes across these nations. One dish you can't really miss is goulash. I've tried different goulash in different countries, even a vegan one, and also one inside bread. Some of them look like soup, and some of them look like stew. The Hungarian version is more like a soup, while the Austrian version is more like stew. Goulash is a national dish of Hungary. It is a type of soup made primarily with beef, onion, paprika, and other vegetables like carrots, potatoes, and tomatoes. Because of the use of paprika, the soup has a distinctive flavor and red color. I tried this dish during my first trip in Budapest. The soup is really hearty and filled with flavor. The beef is also pretty tender. The soup does have a spice kick, but in my opinion, it could be quite salty, so I balance it by pairing with bread. Goulash is a Hungarian word that means herdsman or a cowboy. The word also reflects Hungarians' pastoral culture, when herdsmen would cook meals over an open fire. The dish is quite old and can be traced back to the 10th century. The original version was very different from what we have today. Originally, the Hungarian shepherds would first cook and season the meat, then dried it and put it back into the bags made from sheep stomachs. Whenever they felt hungry, they would take a piece of meat, add some water, and reheat it, so it becomes a soup. Honestly, I think this was a really smart and convenient way to store and cook food, given the circumstances and limitations that they have. Paprika plays an indispensable role in goulash. As a frequent user of paprika, I was quite surprised to find out that paprika is big in Hungarian cuisine, and the word paprika literally derives from the Hungarian word. Although paprika is prevalent and Hungarians literally put the spice in almost every meal, one thing I want to point out is that paprika wasn't a thing back in the 10th century. The red peppers used to make paprika are native to central Mexico and found their way to South Asia through the Columbia Exchange. Despite being in Europe, paprika was introduced from the east rather than the west. So, after making its way to Asia, the red pepper was traded to Europe via the spice trades and eventually reached Hungary through the Balkans. By then, Hungary was part of the Ottoman Empire and paprika was introduced by the Turks. After the spice became more accessible, Hungarians became crazy about it because it is versatile and adds depth of flavor to dishes. Although beef is traditionally used and goulash is considered soup in Hungary, I did have an amazing vegan goulash and a stew version of goulash in Austria. For the vegan one, beef is replaced by mushrooms and extensive spices are used. It isn't salty but full of flavor. The Austrian version of goulash is more like a stew than a soup. The flavors are balanced and the beef is more tender. You can even find goulash in the United States. It's especially popular in the Midwest and South. The origin of American goulash can be traced back to the first wave of Hungarian migrants to North America after the Fair Revolution of 1848. It looks very different from its Hungarian cousins. American goulash used ground beef, macaroni, tomatoes, and bell peppers. It's more like a pasta dish, a one-pot comfort food, and you can customize your goulash by adding various vegetables. Another dish that can be commonly found in Central Europe is schnitzel. It is also one of my favorite dishes during the trip. You just can't go wrong with it. Schnitzel comes from a German verb meaning to cut. It's a thin slice of meat that is always cut from the bone and pounded to be thin and tender, then seasoned and breaded before frying. It's typically served with a lemon slice, a light salad, or alongside fries and potato salad. The meat is super juicy with a crunchy breadcrumb texture and a tangy kick from the lemon. It is absolutely comforting on a cold night in Austria or Germany. My mouth is already watering just thinking about it. The meats used in schnitzel can be pork, chicken, and beef, but a schnitzel can only be called Wiener Schnitzel if it's made from veal. In Austria, the dish is trademarked and protected under Austrian law. I had this amazing Wiener Schnitzel. It's super thin and the meat is tender. Schnitzel has been really popular in other countries of Europe due to it being delicious and versatile. In northern Italy, it's called Milan-style cotoletta and is also made from veal chop, but the cutlet is fried in butter. And of course, you can find schnitzel in the US too. It was brought by the German immigrants in the mid-19th century. Beef was often used because veal wasn't available. It is more like a breaded and deep-fried beef steak, and is generally a shorter or round cut rather than expensive loin, usually served with white gravy. So I guess it once again became a comfort food. Speaking of this, I have a feeling that the country fried steak was inspired by the US version of schnitzel because of the similarity in white gravy. Well, beef isn't as tender as pork, chicken, or veal, so it makes sense to me that chicken was substituted for a juicier texture and a relatively affordable price. What surprised me even more is that schnitzel might be the ancestor of the Japanese tonkatsu. Tonkatsu isn't a traditional Japanese food, but rather a dish inspired by Western cuisine. During the Meiji era, when Japan was rapidly adopting Western cultures, the French version of schnitzel was introduced to Japan. The technique of breading and frying meat in tonkatsu is quite similar, yet Japan later developed its own characteristics. Tonkatsu is typically made with pork and use panko bread crumbs. The sauce and condiments used for tonkatsu are also significantly different from schnitzel. However, knowing the deep connection between these two dishes still surprised me. After learning more about schnitzel, I have a feeling that it must be the origin of all this fried steak that are loved all over the world. This is my first time stepping food in Central Europe, and I found the food to be significantly different from that in the South and West. The regional cuisine is quite heavy on meat and dairy, yet it's also savory at the same time. Although fresh vegetables aren't common in traditional dishes, pickles and sauerkrauts are very prevalent, and they taste good. Beer is indispensable in these countries, and people often start drinking in the morning. If you like my video, don't forget to check out my other videos in the channel. And this is also my first time trying a new style, so let me know if you like it or not. If you like it, subscribe my channel, stay tuned, and more good stuff will be coming out soon. I hope to see you there. Bye!